Yes, okay, and we're only inviting business owners, right? And so I guess I want to jump right into it before our podcast, right? And the first question I want to ask you, right, is why oh my God, Rami, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, Rami. Okay, why Rami is a real estate media expert?
I think the answer to that is because I can identify problems that realtors probably don't even know that they have and find solutions. And by doing that, I am setting them apart from the rest of the competition. There's a lot of real estate agents, a lot of them on social media, a lot of them with listing photos, and a lot of that stuff is not up to standard, at least in my opinion. So I come back with a background of marketing and branding experience. I used to work in the hospitality industry, and I wanted to bring that to the real estate side of Houston. So I infuse all of my videos have support for scripting ideas, ideation, sorry, and hook hook curation. Um, and I think that really helps me stand apart from the rest of the videographer and media guys that you see out there.
How do you spell ideations?
Ideation, Ideation.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, because we do
He's
have
a spelling. He's a spelling wizard.
we
too.
do we do have a rule on the podcast that you can't use words you can't spell.
Thankfully, I
So
know how
we'll
to
give
spell
you
it.
that one. We'll give you that one.
So why is Rami an RE media marketing expert? Just in 2 words.
In 2 words, why am I a real estate marketing expert? The 2 words would be marketing background.
Awesome. All right. So why do you think there's such a need for real estate content right now?
It's well, buyers are getting younger, sellers are getting younger. A lot of people are getting into real estate, and the way that they view this content is not like the old days where people are looking in their mailbox and looking at flyers and stuff. The primary form of media consumption right now is social media. So, and of course, HAR, the MLS, and it's the first touch point for their brand, so you have to take advantage of that by having a strong brand, strong media, strong listing photos, and good relevant content to your clients, to your buyers, so that you can build your business and generate leads.
So no, I'm not throwing any shots, but I've seen some of your clients. What keeps you driven to keep going on in this business? Because I'm sure you deal with some hard people.
So what keeps me driven is that I've seen the results. I always follow up with my clients and I ask them like, hey, how's your listing going? How did that go? Did it sell? Did you get any leads? And most of the answers I get are like, yeah, I'm getting a lot more people, especially if I've done like a reshoot that someone else had shot before. It wasn't good. I've had instances where listings have sat for multiple months, or one that sat for 2 years, that
Oof.
after I reshot it, it sold in a week. And she even pre-sold that same floor plan like after that. So the power is I see the results. And whenever I hear stories like that from my clients, it just drives me to go further because one, I'm not just helping them. I'm not helping their brokerage only. I'm also helping people who are looking to buy that house. Because I was a first-time home buyer. I've been in those shoes, and I've seen like the effect of like having good listing photos. It helps everybody involved in that transaction.
So personally, what traits do you have that help you keep growing this business naturally?
Well, the first one's going to have to be creativity. Like you have to be creative if you're a marketer, if you're a graphic designer, photographer, you do any kind of media, you got to be creative. And so that is kind of like my playground. That's kind of how I stand out. And the second one is going to be persistence, being stubborn, whatever you want to call it, ambitious. Whenever I have something in my mind that I want to accomplish, if I set a goal, almost nothing can stop me. Like I literally will find the strategy. I'll find the way to get to that goal, and without fail.
So it's shout out time, right? So who has given you the most support? Who do you attribute more contribution to your success, in this industry?
Multiple people. I have Narmeen, who is a divorce lawyer and a realtor, and I've known her since high school. I remember before I started this business, I was kind of going through like imposter syndrome. You know, I was like kind of like, oh well, there's a lot of real estate photographers, there's a lot of videographers. Like, how am I going to stand out? Is it even worth me getting into this? You know, and I remember having this moment while I was standing in a Best Buy, and she just called me out of the blue and was asking me if I had shot a video for a body shop, because I was doing marketing for other businesses back then too. And I was like, yeah, I did. I shot for that body shop. She's like, oh, that's my husband. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I had no idea. And then I got to asking her, I'm like, well, I'm sitting here in a Best Buy wondering if I should buy a camera and a lens, because I'm thinking of doing real estate photography. What do you think? Is it something worth getting into? And she was like, yeah, like we go through photographers all the time. I don't like a lot of their photos. I don't feel like they represent the house very well. And, you know, I feel like she had seen my work before, because I used to do like restaurant photos and food photos and videos. So she's aware of like my skill and obviously like the body shop. So she's like, you would do great in it. You should definitely try. And it kind of gave me that push that I needed to be like, you know what, I'm gonna just go for it. So I went and I bought everything that day. And I also have other two people I want to shout out. One is my other high school friend. His name is Frank. He's been like following, you know, my career and my accomplishments for years. And you know, I remember at one point, I have a software engineering degree, and I chose the worst time ever to like apply for jobs during the year where there were mass layoffs in the industry. And even though I had a connect at Microsoft, the guy he's a family friend. He was telling me, bro, you're competing against literal wizards, you know, who are trying to get the same job you're trying to get. So I remember being discouraged and like, man, you know, how am I going to get a job? Like, what am I going to do? And Frank was telling me, also kind of pushing me once I told him about the idea of like, oh, I'm thinking of doing real estate photography. He's like, you should totally do it. He's like, all you need is one push, like to get you started. And that push came from someone he referred to me. His name is Ram Diaz. He's a realtor, young guy, like 24, 25 years old, very big on social media. And I mean, I've even looked up his, you know, HAR, and he sells. Okay. So Ram is a very nice guy, and he gave me a chance. In the beginning, I started my business January 1st last year. Literally, I think 5 days later, he's like, hey, man, I'm going to give you a chance. Like, I want you to shoot a video for me. And it was a video at a high rise, and it was like a behind the scenes video of like his newest listing. And that video kind of set everything into motion. He was so impressed, and he just loved it. And he's like, let's do more, you know? So I started doing more videos and photo shoots with him. And a lot of the realtors that followed him ended up following me. That's how I've actually met some of the Lionsgate realtors as well, was through some of the content I shot for him. And the rest is history. So shout out to Narmeen, shout out to Frank, shout out to Ram. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate your support. And,
there you go, man. Those are your 3 day ones.
Yes.
I only have 1 day one, so 3 day ones is actually a really good start, right?
Thank you. Yes.
So let me ask you this: if Hollywood called today, right, and said, you know, tell me the origin of Rami. How did it all start, and how did you get to this success? How would that story go?
It depends how far back you want to go. But if we don't want to go to the very beginning, we could start off whenever I was a teenager. My dad had a used car lot. He bought me like a very cheap like Nikon camera at the time. And he's like, I need you to take photos of these cars to put them on eBay. And so I would go and photograph these cars all the time and, you know, list them. And that's how I got started with photography. It was like maybe about 18 years ago. And I would go on to do that for a long time. And I started doing, like I mentioned, real hospitality marketing, which involved tons of daily shooting. I was nonstop on the field, different restaurants, managing 20 social media accounts at one point, and just going to photo shoots constantly, like, you know, working with lighting, working with composition, with cameras, and trying to get, like, you know, engaging content and beautiful content that, you know, made people want to go visit these businesses and build their brands. And during that time, I was also doing graphic design. I was building brands and designing logos and things like that. And I became very, I like to say, you know, the jack of all trades, master of some. because I was good at, I'm still good at a lot of things. I just got started back then, learning all these different things, and I've developed each one of these skills. And it just seemed like this was a natural fit for me to start a business in this industry.
So why did you start your own company?
I started this business because I noticed that I thought I'd look back at my story of like trying to buy a house and seeing how the listing, it was like the last one on my list after 2-3 months of looking for a home. And I kept putting it on the very last one on my list because the photos were just so bad and I like was super uninterested in it. I went to go look at all of the houses that were on the list that had better photos. I had noticed that. I'm like, oh, I keep clicking on the ones that have like the pretty pictures. You know, that's the one I want to go look at. And I came, you know, eventually I went and got desperate. I looked, exhausted all my options. I looked at that house, fell in love with it, and decided, you know what, I want to buy it. And that story stuck with me. And it always kind of just kept going on in my mind. Like, okay, you know, that's a really interesting story. Like that realtor could have sold it for more money, could have sold it sooner if the pictures were good. I could have found a house sooner as a buyer. I would have been probably happier, not having to waste my time with all the other ones. And I started looking at you know, I was doing the hospitality marketing, so I was always on Instagram. And I'm always following people and like, you know, looking at stuff. And I stumbled upon like the real estate side of Houston, like social media for Houstonians. And so I started to notice, I'm like, man, a lot of these realtors just have a whole bunch of, you know, just sold and just listed like flyers and stuff on their pages, and no personality like on their page, like for me to know who they are. Some of them didn't even put that they were in Houston, you know, like I would have no idea what they served. And so I was like, man, I feel like there's like something missing here. You know, there needs to be like better content. There needs to be better photos. And so I seized that opportunity and decided to open this business.
Okay. So I know this is a tough question, right? Because you're essentially already like a business mogul here in Houston, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to media. But if you had to model your business after any business mogul, who would that business mogul be?
I had to think about this one, and I think I landed on Tillman Fertitta because he is also a Houstonian, and he is also from the hospitality industry. And I think whenever you work in that industry, you have a unique insight into things. You look at business a little bit differently. Some people are all about the numbers, the numbers, the numbers. And I feel like business consists of a lot more than just that. And I think Tillman Fertitta realizes that too, because I've noticed in all of his ventures, he does prioritize the customer experience. He prioritizes, you know, making sure that the customer is taken care of and they feel comfortable. And that's something that I wanted to bring to my business. So, you know, for example, like just a few days ago, I had posted up a story because I've noticed, again, it's about anticipating needs. And I noticed that there was a need especially when I'm shooting ladies for social media. You know, we're in Houston, we have humidity, and they get a lot of flyaways, and the hair gets frizzy, and it's been a constant issue. And I've been thinking, I'm like, there has to be a way for me to solve this. I'm bald. I don't have a whole lot of I don't have a lot of hair to really know about, you know, hair care products anymore. So I asked, I was like, hey, ladies, what kind of products can I buy and like just carry with me to these shoots to help you out with your hair, you know? And unexpectedly, I didn't realize I get so much, you know, like responses to it, but they're like, hey, get this, get this, get this. And people are like, this is so thoughtful of you. Like, thank you for thinking about that. Thank you for considering this. And like, we love that you're doing this. And so I'm like, you know, it's just about anticipating needs. And that's why I look up to Tillman Fertitta. I want to be able to provide that same kind of like white glove experience that's going to leave people, you know, delighted and happy to work with me and to see results as well, of course.
Have you ever met him?
No, I have not.
So I met him once, but I didn't get a picture. So if I didn't get a picture, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen.
Yeah, and there's no media company around to shoot a picture of me shaking hands with Tillman Fertitta. But let me ask you this. You know, you get so caught up, you know, working and succeeding. Has there ever been a time that you got so busy that you lost yourself? You forgot what you were doing there for yourself?
Yeah, I feel like, especially because it was my first year in 2024, getting started, I'm sitting here trying to figure everything out. And I wanted to make sure that I'm delivering on my timelines, on my deadlines, and the quality is consistent. So a lot of times I would push myself really hard. I'd stay up past midnight into 2 a.m., some cases 3 a.m. And I would just start, kind of noticing my health, like kind of struggling a little bit, like, oh, I'm really tired the next day. I'm not feeling too good. And my brain is kind of mushy. So I feel like it's been a common issue, and it's something that I am working on and trying to prioritize myself. But yeah, it's a common thing for me.
So this is my last question, man, I promise. So as a professional, right, as a business owner and as a professional, I think that you're not truly a business owner or a professional if you don't recognize that there's certain weaknesses that you have. So I'm gonna put you in a vulnerable position here. What are your two biggest weaknesses that you have identified and that you're working on?
So I have a couple weaknesses, and I think one of the main ones that I have is a desire. Like okay. So what happens is, like, usually a lot of the bad habits and weaknesses that we have are kind of like a results of trauma or, like, past experiences. I had seen a lot of businesses fail because they didn't know how to scale properly. And so for me, it basically, it kind of stems from, like, I'm kind of going to have the opposite problem, where it's like I'm having a hard time relinquishing control over the business to somebody who can help me out and scale it up. So I'm very overprotective over my business, very overprotective over my products. So having that level of, like, just being overprotective about it I would consider that a weakness, because you cannot scale a business on your own. I don't want to be the business. I want to scale my business. So my second weakness is that I prioritize work over everything, and I think that is it's a dangerous. The thing is, like, it's not a good thing to have. It's not a good. It's not a good trait. You got to have that work-life balance. We are so accustomed to hustle culture, and we're constantly, trying to talk about how much we work, and it's a good thing to be busy. But and as much as I know that, it's still hard for me sometimes to kind of, even on, like, a day off, I'll try to, like, unwind and do some of my hobbies, and I can't relax. My brain is constantly thinking about the next thing that I need to do. And so that ability to disconnect from work and kind of recenter my mind on my personal life has been a challenge for me. That's another weakness.
Man, so Rami, I thank you for coming. I think I told you already, right, that this is, we only invite business professionals here, right?
Yeah.
And we really like that you gave us your perspective of Sunbird, and we really want to have you back on the podcast again, and when we get our new podcast, of course. And we enjoy working with you. But go ahead and shout out, and let us know where we can find you, and we'll cut out with that.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate you allowing me on the podcast, and definitely looking forward to the next one. My name is Rami. I'm with Sunbird Visuals. If you're looking to up your real estate media game and your marketing, feel free to follow me and reach out on Instagram at Sunbird Visuals.
Awesome. All right.